big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank-
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment.
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Welcome, New Templars. I'm Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka A145 the Mapmaker. And we've had a lot of news in the past week that I'll be reviewing in this video. Trump still as unhinged as ever. Possibly too unhinged, some might say at this point. And as we'll bring up later in this video, maybe getting a little too chummy with the ones who wear the yarmulkes, let's just say for now. But just today, shocking video footage comes out of the Oval Office with Trump getting into a screaming match with Zelensky at a meeting where they were supposed to sign a minerals deal, which was not signed, and Zelensky was asked to leave the White House before their press conference. You know, most of these world leaders, they come and they do the little chat in the Oval Office by the fireplace, and then they do the bigger press conference afterwards, after a private meeting. Part 2 of Zelensky's meeting got canceled. And so the whole world is in shock right now with seeing the way Zelensky was treated by Trump on this visit. And I mean, it's all a show. So I'm not really concerned about if he was polite enough or not, but I think people on both sides of the aisle are pretty shocked on this one because, you know, obviously we have the Democrats are all 100% pro-Ukraine. Unfortunately, though, even the Fox News Republicans are pretty pro-Ukraine and, you know, don't even really understand like why we're supporting Ukraine and, you know, going headfirst into World War III over there and sending them $300 billion. But because they watch Fox News, they have been programmed to think that, you know, we're supposed to support Ukraine in this for no real given reason. So while I enjoy all of these unhinged Trump antics myself, I'm a little bit confused on like what he's trying to do on the PR end of things. If he's going to be able to retain as much popular support as he has had recently, acting this unhinged, you know, as president, there's a certain decorum that you usually try to maintain. I mean, getting into a screaming match with another world leader, I guess he's trying to show that America's not going to be pushed around by Ukraine anymore. But I think you could show that while still maintaining a little more professionalism. Not criticizing him. Again, I'm okay with it, but I don't want to see his poll numbers falling with all the boomers and the Fox News conservatives and his popularity just getting even worse and worse with the liberals. So I think there's a few things, maybe a little course correction might be needed. On top of that, here's another real shocker, almost as shocking as the Zelensky meeting. Trump posted an AI-made video about Trump Gaza. And if you thought my AI memes of Trump in the hazmat suit spraying the cockroaches in Gaza was bad, this is actually posted on Trump's account and arguably even worse because of that. So I think we're going to kick the video off with looking at that Trump Gaza video that, mind you, I mean, this is a shocking thing. It was actually shared on all his official platforms, on Truth Social, on Instagram, I believe also on X, not on the White House, thankfully, but let's watch the video and then assess the damage.
Donald is coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to
to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one.
So yeah, there's obviously quite a few problems with that. The first thing, well, obviously it's going to send anyone who's pro-Palestine or liberal into a total meltdown. This is even sending religious conservatives into a meltdown, because he has included this picture of him as a golden statue, which the real religious ones are picking up on comparisons to the statue of Nimrod, the gold statue of Nimrod, I guess, in the Bible, that is supposedly blasphemous. So, I mean, I'm trying to like search in my mind why he would post this. It's just antagonizing, basically antagonizing to almost everyone except people that are, you know, really high conscious and also have a sense of humor. I'm pretty sure he is posting this with a sense of humor. I mean, it has bearded dancing belly dancers, and just, I mean, so much about this, like the melody, the song. I mean, I don't know who did AI write the song that went with this as well, because the song's like actually pretty good. You know, the lyrics are like making sense, but it's not the best look, you know, and especially when you consider that most people think that this area has been going through like a genocide over the past 3 years, or 2 years rather. It's very insensitive, you know, and to me, I mean, if he's posted this, is making me think even more that aspects of this quote unquote genocide have been staged or fabricated, and possibly the majority of the Gazans already relocated, or else he would not be posting this. But that's a very like esoteric conspiratorial perspective that I'm not even sure if I believe. And so to be posting this, you know, in essentially the middle of genocide ongoing, it's a little bit tone deaf, I would say. So I'm not sure what Trump is thinking. You know, of course he is like the master of PR, the master of Sun Tzu. So, you know, maybe I think some of these things he's doing to get a specific reaction. Like, for an example, I'm not sure what the specific reaction to this would be, other than just getting hated by everyone. See, like even like one of those comments there, one of the first comments, which has 5,000 likes. Trump, I voted for you to have a better economy, better laws, and to take care of our country. Stay focused on the future of our nation and don't create obstacles with other countries. Let's stay focused on making America great again. I think that's kind of what most people are thinking, that of all the places, he was supposed to build these 7 new freedom cities in America, and instead, you know, we're talking about building the Gaza Riviera. So how does that benefit America, unless it's a territory potentially, you know? So yeah, I mean, I found the video, it's great as a meme, but as a president, I'm not sure if he should be posting such antagonizing memes. You know, like when I made the spraying cockroaches meme of him in Gaza, like I knew that was edgy, I knew that was pushing it, I knew that would probably piss off people who supported him. But I'm A145 the map maker of New Templars. Like I can say whatever I want. He's the president. Like, I mean, I know he doesn't have to worry about getting elected again, but I think he needs to be a little more conscious of not alienating so many people. So let's keep that in mind. And then, you know, talking about, I'm not going to play the video of the Zeleensky standoff, which happened today. I'm sure you'll see it. It's making huge headlines internationally. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a yelling match like this in the Oval Office before. And so it's very much unprecedented. The news has been kind of flip-flopping on what Trump's stance on Ukraine is. One day they'll say Trump's calling him a dictator. The next day they'll say, you know, now he's warming up to them. But this, I really think, is a big turning point in the relationship between United States and Ukraine, to have such a humiliating state visit to the White House by Zelensky. Essentially, you know, Trump bent him over his knee, pulled down his pants, and gave him big spanking on international TV. The headlines are saying that Zelensky leaves the White House early after spat with Trump. What was supposed to be a formal signing of a minerals agreement descended into a shouting match and bitter recriminations. On top of that, immediately when Zelensky showed up to the White House, and I've posted all these video clips on my Twitter, my X, so go follow me on X and just look at all the most recent things if you want to see some of these videos. Trump, as soon as Zelensky gets out of the car, Trump says, "Oh, look, you're all dressed up." And then he repeats it again to the press even louder, essentially insulting Zelensky for not wearing a suit to their meeting, which, I've kind of been saying this for the past 3 years. Like, why does Zelensky never wear a suit even when he goes internationally? Like, I understand when he's in his own country, he's at war, like he's kind of in fatigues, like on his own land. But visiting other countries asking for money, like I feel like he should probably follow like standard politician protocol and attire and like put on a suit or something. You can still have like a Ukraine pin or whatever. He has to have his little satanic Ukrainian sigil on there, but still. So, I mean, it was not just they got in an argument. This was like an ambush. This was an ambush by Trump and JD. And JD jumped in there too and was throwing a little attitude towards Zelensky during their meeting. Why did you even invite him? Like, they must have known that this is how it was going to go. And so, I mean, why even invite him there in the first place? If you think that this is how it's going to go, if you're going to start insulting him as soon as he gets out of the car, I'd say this was a humiliation ritual. I mean, and let's also remember that Zelensky was an actor. Trump, not exactly an actor, but has, dabbled in acting and, has a former career in television. And so, I really believe this is a show. This was a public humiliation ritual. And this was really the turning point in America's relationship with Ukraine. Like, no more military funding, it seems, after this. That Trump's trying to make a peace deal. Zelensky is resisting, still wanting to just fight Russia endlessly, it seems, when it's obvious that they can't win. And so that's the way that went down. And so we'll have to see. I mean, I'm sure, liberals are melting down over this one too. Even probably some conservatives are saying that, they're embarrassed with the way Trump has acted in here. So he's playing this pretty heavy-handed. Like, this is Trump unhinged and not trying to get reelected and not really caring about his poll numbers, it seems. So all that's good and fun and entertaining. But at the same time, I have some concerns about the United States of America and also the global economy, because what we saw last Friday. So we're going to pivot now a little bit from Trump being unhinged to update on America's golden age, which I would say is not going so well. We are in pretty hard economic times. It still feels like we are very much in Biden's economy. The inflation that we had under Biden is only getting worse. Even me personally, I'm struggling a little bit with, I'm seeing a drop off in orders for DSMP. I had to withdraw some crypto to pay for all the crystals I bought in Tucson. And I was even about to sell more crypto last night. I was almost about to sell almost half my XLM that I have in total, just to have a little more liquidity here, because I put a lot in before the inauguration. And since the inauguration, and most of my cryptos have gone down like 30%. And I'm like, is this just a little bear trap right here, or is this the end of the bull market? Like, I don't know. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because let's talk about the stock market first. It was last Friday, 2/21, was called the worst day of 2025. 927 billion wiped off the stock market that day. Here's a little graphic of all the different stocks, how much they went down. Now in the stock market world, it's much less intense than in the crypto world, but you see everything's down a little bit. Why did this happen? Well, according to Business Insider, A trio of economic data doomed stocks to their worst day of 2025. U.S. stocks sold off on Friday, marking the worst day of 2025, just 2 days after the S&P 500 hit a record high. Economic data released raised concerns about a rebound in inflation, and the Dow Jones has lost 1,200 points over the past 2 days. U.S. stocks sold off on Friday in their worst day of 25. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just one slightly bad day at the stock market, it looks like. But this kind of downturn seems to have continued throughout this week. That was last Friday. I'm recording this on Friday, the 28th right now. And just last night, crypto took a big dive south, about 10% on most different cryptos. Well, before we get on to that article about the stock market was also saying that this is a lot based on consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment, which is also what I'm kind of picking up on, that consumer sentiment plunged in February for the second consecutive month as measured by University of Michigan surveys. Fears of tariffs from Trump administration and expectations for a rebound in inflation sent the index, I guess the consumer sentiment index, to 64.7 in February, its lowest since November 2023. So sounds like in general people are pretty fearful, like on the fear to euphoria index. We're pretty deep in the fear right now, and people are just wondering if things are going to get worse and kind of like bracing for that, maybe selling because of that. And with inflation, like the situation I'm in, with inflation, I'm having less, like I'm used to having money coming in through my business, like constantly, every month, like decent amount. And because of inflation, like people are cutting down on their discretionary spending. Taxes coming up too, that's another thing. Taxes, inflation, insurance is going up. I mean, I was just yesterday had to deal with, my house insurance was trying to go up like 30% because they say it would cost more to rebuild the house now because of inflation. And so it's just a total inflation disaster happening essentially. And I'm not feeling the golden age yet. I'm feeling still like the Biden economic crunch big time. And I think a lot of my customers and obviously a lot of people just in general in America are feeling this as well. So I want to review a couple different crypto charts here before I move on. There's the XRP chart. Now I set most of these to the 1 month time frame, and so this is essentially we're like 1 month and 8 days into Trump's presidency. January 20th to February 28th, and yeah, like we're really not seeing much golden age action yet. XRP is down 29.8%, 30% essentially. Which was, the big coin, like the white hats are supposed to be like involved with. Like, why wasn't the XRP case with the SEC like closed on day one? I am confident that it's still going to be ended and resolved in XRP's favor, but it's like we're ready, like anytime now. Here's Bitcoin's chart. Now this is the 6 month, and you see here where it goes up significantly. That's probably like the election, when all the cryptos went up around the election. But you see like most recently towards the right side of that chart, big drop off just as of this week. And Bitcoin, you don't see it quite as much, but several other charts you really see like a head and shoulders that have formed, which is sometimes a sign of a bull market ending. But I'm hoping that's not the case. Maybe this is just a little consolidation. And we'll see more upward progress after this, but not looking so great. And then let's look lastly at XLM, which is XRP's little sister coin. This is the 1 month chart, down 27%. And looking even worse is actually the 3 month chart, which that takes us about back to the beginning of December, down 43%. And so, I mean, it did go up a lot right after the inauguration, but it has just been kind of downhill ever since then. And so I am still confident on all of these, very bullish long term. Um, but I mean, praying to God, this is nothing like the Biden administration where everything went up a lot the first year, 2021, and then it was like 4 years of just like sitting on the baseline back after a huge crash midway through 2021. And so, I mean, I don't expect that, but you just never know with these things. And so, crypto, well, XLM and XRP are typically follow Bitcoin, and Bitcoin typically follows the stock market. So all these things are pretty well interconnected. But you never know if something may break out of, following the general trends individually or in a group of possibly, say, the ISO coins. I mean, my hope is that the ISO coins like XRP and XLM overtake Bitcoin because of their speed, because of the cheapness of transaction. And, I would hope that more people start actually using these to do transactions online and in person because, we cut out a lot of middlemen, save a lot of costs on PayPal and credit card fees. Like, PayPal and credit card both are about 3% fees on every single transaction. And then internationally, that goes up to more like 10% almost. But with XRP and XLM, that's like 0.1%. So it's really much better form of currency than what we're currently using. Now, the good news in all of this is that there are signs that, Trump has still been getting his people sworn in. We cannot expect the golden age to really begin on day one. These things do take time. And I was made aware, which I didn't actually see the articles myself. I had to hear from Mike King about this. But when Trump declared the national energy emergency on January 20th, first day in office, this was the first big pivotal step in ending the inflation and, resuming energy production. Once you get the energy costs back down, then you will get the inflation back down is the logic, which is, I think, sound logic. Now, let me just read a couple sentences of this and see if it's making sense here. The energy and critical minerals energy identification, leasing, development, production, transportation, refining, and general capacity of the United States are all far too inadequate to meet our nation's needs. We need a reliable, diversified, affordable supply of energy to drive our nation's manufacturing, transportation, agriculture, essentially everything, defense industries, to sustain the basics of modern life and military preparedness. Caused by the harmful and short-sighted policies of the previous administration, our nation's inadequate energy supply and infrastructure causes and makes worse high energy prices that devastate Americans, particularly those living on low and fixed incomes. This active threat to the American people from high energy prices is exacerbated by our nation's diminished capacity to insulate itself from hostile foreign actors. So, yeah, I'm not going to read this entire thing. That's an executive order on the White House if you do want to read the entire thing. But it has been unclear up until now, what's the progress on this executive order. Now, this is also declaring a national emergency, mind you, which is much stronger language and has different meaning than just a regular executive order. We've seen national emergencies declared on the human trafficking with that most famous executive order from the end of 2017. National emergency with COVID in 2020, which that, in my belief, kicked off the entire continuity of government operation, which also resulted in the Biden administration. And so I'm not sure how many other ones there have been, but this declaration of a national emergency with regards to energy is a big deal. It gives Trump almost like war powers in order to combat the energy crisis. And so the good news here in all of this economic, inflationary, and energy news is this right here, that it was reported, let's see, that's 2/19, last Thursday, I think, that the Trump administration identifies hundreds of energy projects that could be fast-tracked. And so they're talking about 600 different energy projects that will now be, I think, spearheaded and completed by the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, mind you, this does actually connect to Q-posts, which refer to Red Castle many different times. And as you may know, the logo of the Army Corps of Engineers is the red castle. And so maybe this was a long-term plan, but for them to be getting involved in these energy projects is a really good sign that we could get these things moving and more energy being pumped into America much sooner than otherwise. If we were to just use government contractors, we're actually using the Army Corps of Engineers. And so that's very hopeful. I'm not sure what the timetable is on that, but it's not going to be immediate. It's going to be getting the energy flowing again, which will get the energy costs down, which then that will trickle down to all these other industries, from food production, grocery store prices, to shipping is a really big one that's gone way up with all these energy costs going up. I mean, I'm getting virtually zero international orders anymore just because we have to charge so much for international shipping that it's completely ridiculous. And I don't blame international customers for not ordering, because they don't want to pay almost as much for the shipping as they're actually paying for the product. So hopefully as American energy comes online, we'll be seeing that go down, and we'll be seeing a little bit of relief from these economic woes, because I don't think anybody is feeling the golden age quite yet. We'd like to say promises made, promises kept on that one, but we're really feeling like the Biden economy is still at large. So with that being said, I want to switch gears here for a minute and just drop in a few little promos for Deep State Mapping Project. Like I said, we have been seeing a little bit of a drought of orders, especially international orders. And I understand if people are hurting, if you're having trouble affording groceries and mortgages and taxes and insurance, artwork kind of comes last priority. I understand that. However, if you want to support the operation, we have a lot of awesome artworks. I'm wearing the Maestro Map t-shirt today. We got the Maestro Map itself over here to my left, our newest artwork. And with regards to the Maestro Map, we have just produced a new reel this week. And so check out the Maestro Map reel right now.
Are you ready to step into the world of the Maestro? The Maestro Map from Deep State Mapping Project lays out the complete 40,000-foot view of the special operations behind the mega phenomenon. From that fateful ride down the golden escalator to the plan for America's new golden age, and the Star Trek future we've only dreamed of. This is the full debrief of 45 to 47, here to help you comprehend the true mission of the Maestro and explain it to your liberal extended family.
We're getting rid of all of the cancer.
Get the Maestro Map from DeepStateMappingProject.com.
So yes, that is the Maestro Map, the 40,000-foot view of 45 to 47. And hopefully Trump stops being quite so antagonizing. It doesn't make me regret putting my name out there, along with his, and supporting the Maestro. Beyond the Maestro Map, if you want to keep it apolitical, the Infinite Life Vortex is our latest health and healing diagram. We're still selling a lot of healing webs, and people have not even really picked up that much on the Infinite Life Vortex yet, which is, in my opinion, much more informative and more complete and better than the Healing Web in virtually every way, because it was Healing Web 2.0. It was everything on the Healing Web and more expanded and improved information. So you can get the Infinite Life Vortex as a 40-inch print, 24-inch fold out, or 24-inch solid poster that has no creases. You can also get it as a tapestry. So check out the Infinite Life Vortex. Now, as you may know, I just got back from Tucson, Arizona, where I was sourcing crystals to restock the DSMP crystal shop. Big boys, just like this one you see here. I think first we will be relisting a lot of the crystal bracelets that we had in all different types of minerals. I just did the photo shoot this week. We got some beautiful labradorite ones coming, as well as rutilated quartz, larimar, crackle, rainbow quartz, and smoky quartz. We got a lot coming down the pipe on crystal bracelets, and those will be getting listed probably by this weekend. So check back in the DSMP crystal section. And of course, we still have many crystals already in the section, a whole page and more of crystals that have been there, and really good ones. We got citrine for generating wealth. We got the optical calcite, which is absolutely full of rainbows and light codes for you to get your downloads. So check the crystal shop now, but then we will be listing more and more in the coming weeks. So keep checking back there. And last but not least, I want to throw in one little promo for one of our health and body products, which is ASEA Redox Cell Signaling Supplement. I love this stuff. I've been taking it ever since, what was it, like 2020, when I was first introduced to ASEA. It's essentially like a plasma infusion. It's the perfect serum to make your body run better. I take it during workouts. I take it after workouts. Take it whenever I need a little boost of energy. I'm not exactly healing any kind of serious condition right now, but a lot of people have seen improvements in their blood work. If you do have more serious conditions, it can improve all aspects of your blood work. So it's great to prevent getting sick. It's great to cure a hangover. You shouldn't be drinking anyway, but if you did or party too much, it's great for recovery. So ASEA Redox. I love the liquid that you drink, and I also love the topical Renew 28 that you put on your skin. That's my main go-to right now for any type of blemish or bug bite or eczema, anything on your skin. ASEA Renew 28 helps. And so yeah, check out ASEA, link in the description. And of course, check out all our other posters on deepstatemappingproject.com. We've got the World Hierarchy Pyramid, Jasara map, the D-Web, and the apparel as well. I'm wearing the new Speed logo hat and the Maestro map t-shirt. You can't go wrong, unless there's a liberal standing behind you, because this has got a big Trump fans logo on the back. But even then, they need to see it. So that's it for the promos for this one. Once again, deepstatemappingproject.com. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter on the homepage. We only send about one newsletter a week, so we're not going to flood your inbox. And then lastly, like and subscribe on this video, New Templars. Share it on your social media. We're past 17,000. What should our next goal be? I don't know, maybe 100,000. That'd be nice. So yeah, trying to grow New Templars. We were not included, unfortunately, in the journalists who invited to the White House to disseminate the Epstein files, but maybe one day, maybe one day. Moving on to international news, there was a big election in Germany, and the Christian Democratic Union, which is a center-right party, was the victor. It was described as a lackluster victory in Germany, Sunday's election, but the Alternative for Germany, the far-right party, doubled its support in the strongest showing for a far-right party since World War II, projections showed. So, you know, Europe is known for its three-letter acronym parties, which can get very confusing going country by country. But it seems like most countries now are coming up with like four main parties. You know, it's not just two like in the United States. There's the far left, the center right, and the far right over there in Europe. And so in Germany, things definitely shifted towards the right, which most people kind of thought was a good thing. However, this new most likely PM, Friedrich Merz, came to the podium just after this election and immediately stated that they would not be shutting down the border to migrants, which is one of the big issues in Germany, that they're having this globalist, unregulated immigration and slowly turning their population from white Christian to Arab Muslim. That's what the AfD, the Alternative for Germany party, wants to stop. So essentially, you know, we're seeing Germany shifting further and further right. We didn't really get as far as we needed to get in this election. Trump and Elon have both showed some support for the AfD, but with the AfD doubling its support, essentially we are seeing Germany get back to its far right roots, which is probably a good thing if they want to, stay a Caucasian Christian country. If they want to go Sharia law and become a Muslim country, then, go far left, that's fine. But I don't think most people want the white replacement to happen there. And of course, they may be dealing with rigged elections as well. But they're also dealing with a lot of libtards. So I think the support for Ukraine is even stronger in Europe because they have also been brainwashed by the Khazarian mafia media to think that Russia will move from Ukraine onto all of Europe. And I guess they're afraid they'll all be speaking Russian, or they'll all just be, I don't know, it's irrational fears. But we're working with, essentially, from what I've heard and understand, the younger population in Germany is more concerned about this immigration and more supporting the AfD, the far right, whereas the older, the boomers in Germany, are the ones like clinging on to this old globalist system. And so as we see it shift in demographic over time, it's looking like the AfD party is on the rise. And I mean, people have made comparisons between the AfD and the National Socialists led by Hitler from back in the day, because ever since then, Germans have lived with this societal guilt and international shaming to think that we can never go nationalist or right again. We have to be fully on board with this globalist program to eliminate 90% of the population, or we are not going to get our social justice points. And so it would seem that that mentality is fading, especially as the older generation moves on. So you could say Hitler 2.0 is on his way back. Hitler 2.0 loading was going to be one of the titles of this video potentially, but since this is not the most important story here, I'm not sure if that will be in the title and people might misinterpret it. But I think it will be a good thing to see the AfD party in Germany, as well as the far-right National Rally Party in France, formerly led by Marie Le Pen. So there is hope for Europe yet. In other European and American international news, Trump met with the British PM, Keir Starmer, this week. And it's reported that British Prime Minister Keir Starmer used a visit to Washington on Thursday to press President Donald Trump to not abandon Ukraine, as he looked to find a quick endgame to Russia's bloody invasion with its neighbor. Well, I would say after the meeting with Zeleensky today that goal may not be accomplished. With a mix of flattery and frank talk, the center-left Starmer made the case to the Republican president to remain cautious as he goes about ending the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II. The British premier started the visit by delivering an invitation from King Charles III to come to Scotland for a historic state visit, noting that it was an unprecedented honor since Trump already had been given the royal treatment by the Queen during his first term. So what is the dynamic here? I mean, after the meeting with Zeleensky, I'm kind of surprised that the meeting with this Starmer went as well as it did, or at least as smoothly as it did, because the Trump administration does not seem to be catering to leftists or globalists much anymore. Now, I did see that J.D. Vance was in the Oval Office meeting with Starmer and threw him a little bit of an attitude suggesting that Britain is not upholding the free speech of its citizens, which Starmer vehemently denied, saying, oh, we have a long, 200-300-year legacy of free speech that we're very proud of. And so that seemed like that visit, was pretty much just fluff talk, and that pretty much these two different administrations are on diametrically opposite agendas. And so we'll see how this visit to King Charles III goes. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Charles III being morbidly ill and dying soon, or possibly already executed, and just a stand-in, a white hat operative standing in his position. Of course, we're also hearing more and more about the Pope's health deteriorating. The Pope could pass any day now, and perhaps that will be a trigger for some other events to take place. So there was a lot of interesting symbolism that happened the first time that Trump visited the UK, with him treating the royal troops as if they were his own, inspecting them in a peculiar way, and stepping in front of the Queen, stepping in front of Prince Charles, breaking all kinds of protocols. People said he was very rude, but I think it was more of a statement of his real position in the world, which is of possibly even higher than president. And so what kind of symbolism will we see on the second visit now that he even has the golf club in Scotland? Now, why is King Charles inviting him to come visit in Scotland instead of in London? That's a little bit strange, isn't it? The last time I'm pretty sure they met in London. I mean, some say there's some evidence that Trump may actually hold a title of nobility in Scotland, which would, of course, be against the Constitution. So we're going to keep that one on the DL. But actually, I have a photo, jumping ahead on our timeline of photos a little bit here. This photo was posted by DC Drano during his visit to the White House to receive the Epstein report. And he was gifted what he was calling a presidential coin. And this coin was engraved, embellished with Trump's coat of arms. Now, a lot of people say that this is just the coat of arms that he uses for his hotels chains just to make it look fancy, that they say that this coat of arms was actually copied from someone else's coat of arms and is totally illegitimate. But I'm not so sure about that. I mean, this is really a proper coat of arms complete with Templar chevrons, 3 lions, the knight's helmet, and the gauntlet on top holding the spear, and like the mantle flowing down. I think for him to put this on the presidential coin is very unusual. It says there, President of the United States, 45th, 47th. And this is the coat of arms that Trump is using for his hotels. And apparently, it really is his family coat of arms, whether they just invented it or not. But that would indicate some type of rank within nobility. Normal families don't just have like coats of arms like this. And typically coats of arms have to be approved by the Royal Academy in England of heraldry. And so is this approved? Is this not? I'm sure he's using this at his Scotland golf estate as well. And so a lot of signals are pointing that Trump holds some type of rank within nobility. And so what does that mean? And again, with him stepping in front of the Queen and the King and treating the royal British Army the way he did, we're going to keep studying this and see, what is Trump's true status and rank and position in the world, because I think he might hold a few ranks beyond just President of the United States. So in other international developments, we had the defense minister of Saudi Arabia meeting with Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense. And so Hegseth welcomed the Saudi defense minister to the Pentagon, underscoring the partnership. Prince Khalid bin Salman Al Saud and his delegation, both men delivered and prepared remarks in the secretary's office. Referring to the cooperation that took place between the countries during Trump's first administration, Hegseth pointed out that both nations worked together to pursue military stability and security in the Middle East, as well as to combat terrorism in the region and increase mutual prosperity. So there really wasn't much that was written or said about this meeting, but I found it very interesting to see, first of all, like Trump hasn't met with Saudi Arabia yet. In his first term, I believe Saudi Arabia was his first international state visit. So I found it a little bit strange that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, met with the Saudi Arabian defense secretary first before Trump has met with anyone from Saudi Arabia. I haven't even heard of Trump talking on the phone with anyone from Saudi Arabia, but of course we know that Mohammed bin Salman was one of Trump's closest white hat allies in the bigger white hat plan. So Saudi Arabia being a key strategic partner in the bigger white hat plan and in the Middle East. So what were these two really discussing, that required a visit in person? And by the way, don't get confused, because this Mohammed bin Salman in his exact matching attire looks so similar to this Secretary of Defense. Even I was a little bit tricked at first, thinking that this was actually Mohammed bin Salman, but then I was looking closer at his face. I was like, that's not Mohammed bin Salman. And read the articles a little in more detail and saw that that was just their defense minister. So you can tell the difference in the face, but they all basically look the same. I don't know if they say that about white people wearing business suits or not, but they do look pretty similar. But so that's the defense secretary. I think they were probably talking about Gaza and Israel, and maybe what to do with the refugees. On a deeper conspiratorial level, I do believe that the Saudi royal family is actually the peak level genetic Jews in the world, because well, first of all, look at their genetics, look at their facial composition, and look at their history. Supposedly they are descended from actual Jews, and that the actual Jews running Israel are the Caucasian Khazarian mafia that are actually descended from the Ukraine region, Khazaria. So you have an interesting dynamic going on here. Trump obviously being very chummy acting with the Khazarians. Meanwhile, the Pete Hegseth actually on the defense side of things, actually having these high-level meetings, military topic meetings with the Saudis, which, they may be like the original Jews that are, some say they're masquerading as Muslims. So I'm not sure either way, but I would really like to know what was discussed in that meeting, and I probably won't find out. So that's something for them to know and for us to find out later when we see how things play out in world politics. And maybe if Trump ever holds a presser with Mohammed bin Salman, they may give us a few more details. And I'm sure that bin Salman will meet with Trump eventually. So we have some other random news items I just want to drop in here. I don't have pictures for all of them, but this past week, Dan Bongino was nominated and installed by Trump as deputy director of the FBI. Now, Dan Bongino has become a pretty big personality in the alt media. Not someone that I necessarily follow. He's very mainstream, is usually pretty angry and aggressive on his own channel. But the Trump administration's pick for FBI deputy director is Dan Bongino, a former U.S. Secret Service agent turned conservative commentator whose fiery support for President Trump has earned him a massive following and seen him banned from YouTube for promoting misinformation. Bongino, 50, hosts Dan Bongino Show, a syndicated radio show and daily podcast that was ranked 7th most popular podcast in the U.S. in January, according to the industry analyst PodTrack. Trump said in his announcement that Bongino is willing and prepared to give up his show in order to serve. So it will be Dan Bongino and Kash Patel as the top two at the FBI. Big Trump supporters, big Zionists, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Auditing Fort Knox. They have been dropping a lot of hints about this supposed audit of Fort Knox that's coming up, turning it really into a viral sensation is what it seems like it will be, of them literally live streaming them going into Fort Knox to see if the gold is still there, and making a big deal about, is the gold still there or is it not for some reason? So of course they must already know if the gold is there or not. I mean, for one thing, they have security cameras. For two, if he's the president, he could ask whoever's working there, is the gold there or not? It does not need to be this big spectacle and this big social media thing. But I think they want to make it a thing for a reason. And this is being talked about by Elon Musk at Doge as well as Trump, toying with reporters saying, hey, we're going to be going into Fort Knox and auditing it. So like with the Zelensky meeting, I think they already know the outcome, and this is being planned as some sort of a big media event, some kind of a big reveal, and most likely because they'll find that gold is missing. And where has it gone? Hopefully this is all leading back eventually to creating a gold-backed currency so that we can compete on the international stage and not have an endlessly inflating fiat currency. But that really has not been mentioned too much lately, but I think auditing Fort Knox might be one of the first steps in that. A couple other interesting little tidbits here that Trump seemed to mention chemtrails in one of his meetings with regard to childhood disease and chronic disease. He said something about like maybe they're spraying us with something. So some people interpreted that as a chemtrail remark. And we're seeing a little progress with RFK at the FDA, or sorry, at the HHS, which oversees the FDA, in making a few little moves here and there, but we've got so many problems in big agra and big pharma that it's like where to start. He's chopping things off one thing at a time. I'm sure he's quite overwhelmed the way most of us are these days with the enormity of his task at hand, but he is making little progresses here and there. And I'm not sure if it'll ultimately be him in charge of eliminating the chemtrails, but he has actually stated that publicly as well, that he wants to stop poisoning the air with chemtrails, whatever they may be composed of. A couple other little random points here: that U.S. withdrawing forces from Europe. That's not 100% confirmed, but there has been talk about that. And I'm not sure to what percentage of that. I'm sure we're not giving up all our military bases in Europe, but that's a talking point. Apple investing $500 billion in the USA. We do have a picture for this next one that's quite exciting. Let's see here. Get this in order. Back to pictures. The IRS to close 120 offices nationwide. Now, what does this really mean? On top of this, Dan Scavino has posted on X, quote, abolish the IRS, and also posted a poll, should we abolish the IRS, to which obviously like 97% of the people replied yes. But I absolutely love this meme of, I'm not even sure if this is a real IRS building or not, but an IRS building having been converted into a Spirit Halloween, which of course, as everyone knows, Spirit Halloween known for temporarily occupying places that go out of business, large big box stores that go out of business. So I would love that. But if they're going to close 120 offices, they may want to just eliminate the income tax altogether, because part of the point of those offices is for people that have complaints to go in there and use the TAS, like tax, I'm not sure, something like taxpayer assistance support. Like I had to actually go do that 2 years ago, and obviously did not get my money back from them, which they owe me $20,000 now. But if we're going to close all these offices, is there going to be no recourse for taxpayers to get support and actually go to talk to someone if there's a problem? That concerns me a little bit, but it's only concerning if you paid your taxes. It's looking a lot of ways like this might be the year that a lot more people just stop participating in the supposedly voluntary taxation system, which is unconstitutional. And all those funds have been squandered anyways through money laundering, U.S. aid sent to Ukraine, sent to Israel, all things that the average American does not want to support anymore. But either way, good news with the tax offices closing, I would say. One brief little tidbit that made top headlines yesterday. I'm surprised this was such big news. I'm not sure why, but Gene Hackman found dead in his New Mexico home with signs of mummification and, possibly being lying there on the floor dead for quite some time. I have heard rumors, now I don't want to disparage someone after death, but I have heard rumors that he may have been a bad actor, as they say. He was obviously a very good actor. He was a Oscar-winning actor, and I absolutely loved his role in Heartbreakers, particularly the comedy with Sigourney Weaver. But some were saying that he was one of the bad ones, kind of like an Epstein type that was doing some things. He had an Asian wife that was 30 years younger than him or more. She was dead too, along with one of their 3 dogs. So what really happened there? We're not getting any details yet, but that's a big Hollywood fatality, and probably going to see a lot more of those. A little, I mean, they're acting like, well, he was 95, so that's not suspicious, but for his wife to be dead too is a little suspicious, and the dog. So I would think we're going to be seeing in the celebrity world, expect to see a lot more deaths from unnamed causes, a lot more suicides, and a lot more disappearances, because a lot of those people were involved in some really dark stuff. Now, moving on to one of the last stories I'm going to talk about here, and this one is a little bit concerning. I'm not going to lie. This is why I said in the beginning that Trump may be getting a little too close with the Jews. And the one I'm talking about in this particular scenario this week is Howard Lutnick, who was named as Commerce Secretary. And in another one of these Oval Office swearing-in ceremonies, Trump was giving a lot of details. He's giving such a creepy look to him in that photo. I mean, look at that. He's like, I'm ready to take over the U.S. economy and be the Jew that controls Trump. So in their big cabinet meeting, Howard Lutnick was sitting not next to Trump, but 2 seats over from Trump. And so, I mean, Commerce Secretary apparently is one of the big important roles here. And I'm not saying just because he's Jewish, he's not going to do a good job. But I am a little bit concerned because of everything we know, and nepotism, and Jews running all of the media, that he might not have America's best intentions at heart, and may be more like supporting Israel and the WZO, or the N NZO, or the ZOG, whatever you want to call it. So he was sworn in last week as Commerce Secretary, and Trump made a big point in the swearing-in ceremony about how Howard Lutnick lost his whole company on 9/11 in the World Trade Center. Trump said, as Secretary of Commerce, Howard will work tirelessly to protect our workers and our wealth and grow our economy into the strongest in history of the world. Wikipedia said about Howard Lutnick, in the September 11th attacks, Cantor Fitzgerald, the finance firm that Howard was the CEO of, Fitzgerald lost 658 employees, including his own brother, Gary. And in the swearing-in ceremony, Trump was talking about that, talking about how he lost, his whole company, essentially, in the 9/11 attacks in the World Trade Center. And Trump specifically pointed out that Howard was taking his kids to school that day, on the day of the 9/11 attack, when every other day Howard was in the office at 6 a.m. every day. He was such a hard worker. And Trump made this big point about, which was the kid you were taking to school? Oh, it was Kyle. Kyle, thank you for saving him. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Kyle saved him from 9/11 because that one specific day, Howard was taking Kyle to school instead of at the office at 6 a.m. And so lo and behold, as he's headed to the office, more like around 9:30, he actually supposedly saw the first plane hit the North Tower, and his whole company was based in the North Tower, above the site of the impact. And so essentially no one could escape. Everyone died. Well, that sounds a lot like what we've heard before about 9/11, that a lot of Jews that work in the World Trade Center were actually warned that day to not go in. Now, I'm not saying that he was warned not to go in, but I don't know. It's oh, by the way, Lutnick is of Jewish descent, according to Wikipedia. Another little tidbit about Howard Lutnick that you might find interesting, especially in relation to the Epstein file release, was that in 1998, Lutnick purchased 11 East 71st Street, a Manhattan property behind the Henry Clay Frick House, from the Comet Trust. The townhouse was previously owned by Jeffrey Epstein, a financier and child sex offender. He had extensively renovated its interior renovations by May 2001. Lutnick lived in Bridgehampton, New York, on a 40-acre property he purchased in 2003 for $15 million. So this guy's a billionaire, by the way. He should know something about growing the economy if he actually wants to grow the economy and not destroy it. In December 2024, he purchased Brett Baer's home in Washington, D.C. for $25 million, setting the record for the most expensive house in the city of Washington, D.C. The property is inspired by the Chateau de Grande Luce. So can we trust this guy? I mean, you guys may know, I know I'm saying Jewish a lot here, and I'm not like anti-Jewish. I'm anti-Jewish supremacy agenda. And I do also believe there's a lot of very intelligent Jews, a lot of very talented Jews that if they put their talents to the right purpose, not just serving Israel and nepotism and their own people, that, you know, they've made very important contributions to society. And so this is one we're going to have to watch. You know, and I don't blame him for not being there on 9/11. I mean, hell, if I was warned, don't be in the office on this day and not even really given any specific details, and I didn't go just on a hunch, or, you know, took my kid to school that day instead of going to the office. I don't know. Like, it's not, he definitely didn't like coordinate 9/11, and his brother died. And so he could actually have potentially a vendetta against Israel and Mossad for carrying out that attack. That's another possibility. Of course, he was able to rebuild his business even bigger than before. It just seems like he has like an infinite reserve of finance at his disposal. How did he get in this position, you may ask? Well, do a little more research on his history. But I was asking Grok specifically about what is the role of U.S. Secretary of Commerce, just because it's not a position I've heard about a lot in my experience. So according to AI, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce is a cabinet-level official responsible for overseeing the Department of Commerce, which focuses on promoting economic growth, job creation, and sustainable development. Essentially, they're the point person for boosting American business and trade. The secretary works on policies related to industries like manufacturing, technology, and fisheries, while also handling international trade negotiations to ensure the U.S. companies can compete globally. They manage a bunch of agencies too, like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for weather and climate stuff, and the Census Bureau for population data. On a day-to-day level, they advise the president on economic matters, push for innovation, think tech and infrastructure, and try to keep the economy humming along. It's a big job, part diplomat, part economist, part cheerleader for the US, and that's the position that he is in now. So, yep, a Jewish 9/11 Dodger is the Secretary of Commerce. But I don't know. I mean, I'm reading him. He looks creepy in this picture, but overall, I mean, he might be a decent guy. Like, I don't know. Trump seems to trust him. I've also read somewhere that Trump was not sure about nominating him for that position, and that sometimes Trump had said that he doesn't trust him, but he's in there. So I don't know. Maybe this was a little deal with the Khazarian Mafia to get him in. But he definitely looks like a Khazarian Mafia Jew and not like a traditional Arab Jew. So that's that. But we'll see what he can do. You know, let's not judge the book by its cover. But let's keep a close eye on him, because as Secretary of Commerce, you know, he is the one responsible for taking us into the golden age. And if he's still on this agenda of the traditional Zionist globalist agenda, ain't gonna be no golden age for America. But hopefully that he is serving a different master at this point. So, you know, I'm definitely not someone who says that like all Jews are bad, but this is a little bit concerning. So hopefully he has, like I said before, hopefully he has turned a page, and hopefully he has a vendetta against Israel and wants to see the 9/11 crime exposed. That would be my hope. Last news here. Well, one of the last news is that Trump unveiled a $5 million gold card for U.S. residence permits. And so this sounds a lot like pay to play. Donald Trump announced plans on Tuesday to offer a gold card visa as a pathway to citizenship at a hefty price of $5 million. The measure is expected to attract more foreign investment money into the country. So he's not completely against immigration, but he wants successful people to come to America, which I think that's a good thing. That's a good idea to boost the economy, because each one of those successful people that can buy a $5 million visa would obviously bring a lot of jobs to the country as well. Now, the last news here I want to talk about today is this big Epstein file release, which ended up being quite the nothing burger. But it brought up a lot of really interesting conversations and things to consider within the truth community and within the alt media community as well. So apparently Pam Bondi or Trump invited a bunch of these alt media influencers to the White House. And I've been hearing all different stories about this. Some say they were invited to the White House just for a meet and greet with Trump. And then as like a surprise, Pam Bondi came out with these Epstein folders for them. But the joke was on them, because within this binder was essentially like nothing. It was the same data that's already been out to the public, also still with a lot of redactions, and people are just really confused about like what was really the point of this. And people are also looking at these influencers and saying, well, why were they selected and not us? And is this another form of like nepotism of Trump awarding access to people that have just been so solidly pro-MAGA and not really doing what true journalism is meant to be, which is unbiased reporting, but journalists that are essentially just MAGA cheerleaders. And these are like very mainstream ones: DC Drano, Libs of TikTok, Liz Wheeler, who I hadn't even heard of before this, and she looks mildly familiar. Scott Presler, who is really more into campaigning for Trump than actually even being a journalist, I would say. And Jack Posobiec. And it looks like a few others walking up there from the rear that maybe aren't quite as well known. But of course, all of these people are pretty well known. I think most of these have at least 1 million followers on X. Not quite as impressive on their Rumble channel numbers. But we've been looking into who, what connects this group of individuals. And someone, Fringe Views on X, found that 5 people chosen to receive the Epstein binders are affiliates of the wellness company. This is significant because one of the co-owners worked directly for Eric Prince at Blackwater, and Prince is wrangling for a $25 billion contract right now. Liz Wheeler, DC Drano, Adrian Wexier, that's Libs of TikTok, Jack Posobiec, and Chad Prather. So, I mean, what can you say? It's like those mainstream accounts, like they put out sometimes good information, but it's not real like detailed conspiratorial analysis. Other people have noted that they're all very pro-Israel, very rabid Zionists, and so it's not exactly independent journalism as you would normally like to think of it, or unbiased journalism. It's more like Trump cheerleader journalism, and unclear exactly how they got so many followers, why they're so popular in the first place. I'm not bitter or anything. I'm just saying, like, a couple just little fun memes to end the video with. I really like this one. Silent weapons for quiet wars. Such an important topic. You also call this soft power. Television, fluoride, chlorine, Wi-Fi, smart meters, microwaves. Just read all of it. This is all what's got to go. So send this one to RFK Jr. because most people don't even recognize these as weapons of war, but truly they are. And of course, the biggest one, which is not even listed here, this bad boy right here, the smartphone, and something I've been becoming even more aware of lately, and I made a video about it a couple years ago, but brain-machine interface. You know, when you start thinking about something and it shows up on your phone as an advertisement, yeah, that's still going on big time. And, you know, what else is it doing? What other types of ideas is it reading from your mind? And is it possible for it to send ideas to your mind backwards as well? Very concerning. You got to always keep that in mind when you start falling into those scroll holes. That are you really enjoying the information, or is the machine controlling you? Last news, really good news. Joy Reid canceled. One of the most obnoxious liberal hosts on MSNBC is now looking for a job. And even funnier, if you saw Rachel Maddow's show last week, where she was literally there scolding the MSNBC staff for letting go too many of the DEI African-American anchors there, and saying that she is just humiliated to be working for a network now that only has white anchors. Well, Rachel Maddow, maybe you'll meet the same fate as Joy Reid soon enough. So that is the news for this week. We're trying, have a little bit of the good news, a little bit of the bad news. Golden Age is a little bit like still loading. Hitler 2.0 loading in Germany. Trump doing a lot of things that look like Hitler in the USA, other than being chummy with the Jews. He's the Zionist Hitler. I'm just kidding, of course. No, there's a lot that's looking good, but just a couple little things that's looking concerning. And we got to just keep the maestro honed in, keep him in line, keep that Howard Lutnick under a tight observation. So that's going to be it for this one. Once again, if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Link in the description for deepstatemappingproject.com. All the posters, all the t-shirts, the hats, and of course, many more crystals coming very soon, especially the big boys like this one. We have several to list. So we'll just have to see what happens with Ukraine, what happens with Gaza, what happens with Europe and everything. We're definitely on a new timeline here with the Trump 2.0 administration. After what happened today with Ukraine, pivotal key moment in avoiding World War III, I would say. As World War III is off the table. Unless Israel really pisses off its neighbors. But, when we see the Secretary of Defense of Saudi Arabia meeting with Pete Hegseth in a very secretive private meeting, I think they're probably talking about carving up the Middle East. Maybe Abrahamic Accords 2.0 may have been a big topic of discussion. So we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. I'll be honest with you guys. I have been more optimistic at times. But hey, at least it's entertaining. So have a good weekend, and we'll see you on the next video. New Templars.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the future of finance. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Comedy Club storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Just now we saw a black triangular craft fly whoosh, just right through those two mountains.
And how far we're willing to go to fight to keep it this way.